I'll say a modern human being typically thinks about negative thoughts 80% of the time. What if we had the ability to think about positive thoughts 80% of the time? Don't you think that your outlook on life would change? Hi, I'm Chris James. Today we are going to be doing a reaction to a video talking about depression and its gravitational pull. Depression right now is one of the most impactful issues that we're dealing with in modern times. A lot of the younger youth in society right now deal with a lot of depression. So I figured it'd be good to kind of start talking about this topic. But let's get into this. It's a blind reaction. I have not heard what this individual has to say about depression, but let's see what she's got.
When you're trying to break free of gravity, think of a rocket ship trying to break free of gravity. There needs to be an enormous amount of momentum and push for that rocket ship to break free of Earth's gravity to get out and soar in space where it wants to go, right? So if you're feeling that gravitational pull, you need to push out. And how do you create that momentum? Self-care and celebrations. Those are the things that happy people do.
Okay, so right off the bat, I like what she's talking about. And it's funny because when it comes to depression, it's not like it only affects your social life or, you know, your ability to be sociable. It affects you across the board. That's why it's such an important topic to touch on with so many people dealing with depression. If you're depressed, it affects everything. If you have children and you think that your depression doesn't impact them, you are sorely mistaken. And this is something that a lot of people don't really consider when they think about their depression. I mean, and depending on, you know, it's varying levels of depression that you deal with. Sometimes you're so depressed, you can't even gather the strength to do anything about it. Nonetheless, try to think about how it's affecting anyone else around you. So this is a big topic, and I think she describes it well. It's like it takes an enormous amount of energy to get yourself out of depression. And so the way you approach it has to be very intentional. I'll say that. Let's see what else she's got.
There is a gravitational pull to a depressed mood that makes you want to sink into it, right? I mean, everybody has this experience that you're already feeling depressed and someone wants to cheer you up, and it's like there's a party that doesn't want to be, right? That I know if I go out, I'll feel better, but I don't want to go out, you know, that there's this kind of gravitational pull. And when you're trying to break free of gravity, think of a rocket ship trying to break free of gravity. There needs to be an enormous amount of momentum and push for that rocket ship to break free of Earth's gravity to get out and soar in space where it wants to go, right? So if you're feeling that gravitational pull, you need to push out. And how do you create that momentum? Self-care and celebrations. Those are the things that happy people do. If you want happiness, you have to do what happy people do, even though you don't feel like it. So the self-care, the happy self-care, right? Not just sitting and reading or something, but pushing yourself to go out when you didn't feel like it, right? Pushing yourself to see a show or do something that, you know, I don't feel like doing it. Doing it anyway will create some of those happy moments for you.
This is huge. So I no longer deal with depression. I used to deal with what I would consider like a mild depression, and I was completely unaware of it until I came out of it. But what I've noticed in recent history, just when I'm in a mood, okay, because I don't really do the depression thing anymore. I don't even allow myself to get to that state. But when I'm in a poor mood and someone offers some gesture, you know, to cheer me up, whether intentional or unintentional, my initial reaction is, nah, I want to sulk. I want to stay in my mood. I don't want to be cheered up. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Isn't that so weird? Isn't it so weird? Like, I don't deal with any severe depression or anything like that, but isn't it weird that just I'm upset for whatever reason? Maybe the thing just happened and that could be a part of it. Or maybe I don't want what the person has to offer for whatever reason. And we ultimately, we want to stay away from that, something that potentially could cheer us up. We have to be intentional about fighting against that natural inclination to just stay in a bad mood. Because number one, obviously, it's not going to help us. Number two, you have the ability to impact those around you, right? You're in a bad mood. Your energy, your frequency is low, and therefore you impact those people, the loved ones. The ones that you care about the most are the ones that get harmed the most by this, right? So being intentional about going out, getting out of your funk, especially when you don't want to. As a matter of fact, if you don't want to, that means you need to. You don't want to go out, you're depressed, you've been, you're moping around, you don't want to go out, you don't want to have a good time. That's when you need to push yourself. And it ties into some of the other topics we've talked about, such as discipline, being regimented, and also the can versus will. You know what I mean? You've got to do things that make you uncomfortable in order to get new results. You cannot be complacent. Let's see what else she's got. I like this.
Celebrating is a habit of happy people. Tom and I do it every day, where we take some time, just the two of us, and we habitually review our life together. And we've got like 17 years of review, and we every day we start back to living in Pittsburgh, and then the studio apartment with no furniture, and then all the different things, all the way up to where we are now, right? And it feels so good, and it's just a habit we have of celebrating not just what's good today, but everything that's ever been good. Right? And it's part of what creates our extreme happiness that we have, is this habit of self-care and celebrating.
That's good. Building habits that are going to help to facilitate the outcomes that you want. Because I tell people all the time, I don't have bad days anymore. And I don't know what people think when they hear that. Maybe they think I'm capping or whatever. But the thing is, I'm not saying that negative things don't happen to me. I'm not saying that my life is perfect. What I'm saying is, I don't allow something that happened in this moment to drag out with me all day long. I'm intentional about remembering what I'm thankful for. That practice we do once a year for Thanksgiving? This is a daily practice. So, finding those small wins in your life, even if you don't feel like you had a win today, like she was mentioning, being able to go back and past and look at your life holistically and look at the wins and focus on the wins, because we typically will focus on the negative. That's just what we do. They say that the human being, I'll say a modern human being, typically thinks about negative thoughts 80% of the time. What if we had the ability to think about positive thoughts 80% of the time? Don't you think that your outlook on life would change? We are influenced by the things that we learn and the things we absorb through our ears. If you're constantly hearing negativity, it helps you to think negatively, and it distracts you from being able to see outcomes and being able to see the pathway that you need to take to get to the outcomes that you desire. So I think you could have you could talk about depression a lot. There's also the chemistry of it, and one thing that I will say, that it is scientifically proven that exercise is a great defense or a great offense against depression. If you are depressed, you can exercise. Now, there's many different forms of exercise. It doesn't have to be going to the gym, although that's one of them, right? It could be rebounding. It could be going out and working in your garden, and then when you're out in the garden, you're in nature, you're also getting grounding as well, which helps against depression. So when you are feeling depressed, there are many different tools and techniques you could use to get out of it. But if you feel as though you don't want to get out of it, then that means that whatever that thing is, whatever that activity is, you probably should go for it. Okay. This was amazing. I love doing these reviews. You guys have told me you like them, so we're going to keep doing it. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. And as always, the application of knowledge is power, and I will see you all next time.